Fitzgerald.
Oh, the Fitzgerald
Capital. Well, who else you got? I back out, they send somebody else. There's no bad feelings. I'm still, this person's still one of my peers. I'm still, helping them be successful.
Yeah, I know.
It actually is a very good arrangement for the agency.
So the two big things I heard from this table were sewer treatment and wastewater treatment plants and their potential effects on infrastructure, above ground and below ground infrastructure, sewer lines, and then coastal erosion, bluff erosion, and their potential effects on habitat, commercial centers, homes. Saltwater inundation.
Actually, the city has a brought from my I live in Roanoke Grove, which is where 30 miles down. My river. Oh yeah, absolutely. It makes money fun. It's hot.
Aside from what
We have something. We have sunshine. We have sunshine all the time.
good point. Good point.
Which makes no evaporation.
access to you. And we have access to her through you. They want me to start. Great, thank you. Ours is too. Okay. Ice is too heavy for the
So how are we doing time-wise?
Yeah, I think we could start winding this down. I think my group felt pretty satisfied. We got some really good information. Yeah, we're going to get up and just summarize really briefly what we found, and then open the floor up to questions with the microphone again. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they're out cost shares.
Like everything else, and I know the day will come. It's nice that I missed many.
Yeah. Well, do we have your contact information? We don't. We have staff. We've got people who have technical knowledge. Trying to group those people together. Eventually, we'll draw to the community. Maybe we don't have all of their staff. That's part of the scope. This project, we're trying to get people. The one that I work for. Oh, okay.
At county staff and JP staff and our GS staff. Okay. No, JP.
Okay.
Someone's got to stay
Right.
They have their staff of their own.
Good. We'll reach out to you maybe via the group. So we can. Is that possible? Okay. Yeah, we can do a lot over the phone and via email. So. Okay, I think we're gonna come back. That's for me.
Anyway, thanks again.
Do I? I probably don't need a mic, but are we being filmed? Do I need to be on mic? Welcome back. that was a really productive session. I think our intent is to regather here, and in each one of the members of the consultant team that were taking notes, we're going to go through our notes and some of the highlights that we got. Again, this is just to give the group here, stakeholders here, a flavor of some of the things we're starting to hear. And we'll open the floor up to questions. So I'm just gonna, we'll just touch on some of these high level issues. This was a really interesting session at the coast side because there were 3 or 4 issues that overriding issues. One of them was water treatment plants, sewers and water treatment plants, and then the ripple effect of how those water treatment plants could affect the community if they were disabled, and how they require above ground and below ground infrastructure that is at great risk. So, you know, when we look at this, I'm gonna call some of these things the highest priorities that we got today, and just really. Really briefly, we've got a centralized sewer treatment center that covers Half Moon Bay, Grenada, and Montara, other pump stations and other associated infrastructure. So to keep it up at the high level, water treatment, above and below ground infrastructure for sewer and water treatment. The other thing, which didn't come up in the presentations as much, but it was the concept of erosion, coastal public access, what erosion impacts erosion can have again on our infrastructure, above and below ground infrastructure, sewer, water, power, how it's robbing sand from the beaches, affecting coastal access, potentially affecting homes, apartments, commercial centers. So there's a whole ripple effect that we're getting, particularly along the coast, from erosion. I think dune habitat, how erosion would also affect natural resources, dune habitat, critical habitat, a community center, park and ride, how the transportation routes, particularly Highway 1 at Surfers Beach, is just a really good example of how our transportation routes might be affected through inundation. Creeks, there was concern over the creeks, how water coming from the creeks and inundation coming from the ocean side will create an exacerbated effect. And we've numbered creeks up and down the coast here. And there was a concern with, like I said, empowered inundation, homes could be affected, and certainly natural resources. Saltwater intrusion was another issue. There's a lot of abandoned wells apparently, and those are vectors for saltwater intruding into those wells and affecting our groundwater and our drinking water. So those are the high-level stuff that we got from the coastside mapping station, and we'll, who wants to go next? Grace Klein. Thank you.
Hi everyone, so I was doing the North Bay Shore Station out in Akron.
Use the microphone.
Felt like I was in a room of experts in the local area. Can everyone vaguely see that there is writing on this piece of paper? So, like every other station, discussed various resources that would be at risk, and especially those that are most important to the community, even if they're not right on the bayshore. Things that were mentioned, wastewater treatment plants were the first thing that came up, and we identified all of those that were here. This red map was here. The station went from south, was down in Millbrae and Burlingame, and then up the San Francisco County line. Thanks. Next that came up, first thing in people's minds was transportation. BART, we named San Bruno and Millbrae, and Caltrain, 101, of course, and one of the boulevards as well came up. I'm just going to read it this way. Kaiser Hospital. Sierra Point was an office area, and that brought up other commercial areas, including Genentech, and UPS also has a location right by the water. Some tank farms, Kinder Morgan tank farm, Shell Oil tank farm. Other things that came up were, what I got, the Bay Trail along the water, sewer and stormwater plants. I'm sure none of this is new, but it's good to put the points on the map. We've got Cal Water Pump Station, various PG&E substations. I believe 3 were identified on the map. And then all over, in general, fire, emergency response, and police stations. We had a representative from a marina area and identified at least 3 sort of harbors and marinas, which I think were recently upgraded, but did not take into account sea level rise, so there will have to be changes made there, or ideally there will be. What else came up? Solid waste facility, specifically scavengers. And in general, things that came up were west of 101, there's an undeveloped area. I'm not going to try to find it on this map right now, but it's a natural habitat, and there are garter snakes there, which kind of brings up in general the concern for wildlife in the area, and what would happen in a flooding event. Anything else? Someone came in and it was mentioned that the new FEMA map will definitely impact this area, and there will be new neighborhoods where residents will be required to have flooding insurance, whereas this year and previously they were not required to do so. So yeah, I think it was a productive session, and we got good results. Thank you, everyone. Who was doing mid? Jerry.
Thank you. So you're about to see the difference between serious professional facilitators and those of us who are just amateurs, still effective, but amateurs. So all those giant flip charts are now in little bitty notes right here. So as you can see from the outline of the map, there's quite a bit of infrastructure. I was pretty impressed with the group that came to visit our table, our station. Gordon and I were kept busy through a big hunk of the time with gathering information. For the benefit of keeping this sort of brief, so there's all the dots. You can take a quick look, and we pretty much covered, those dots covered just about everything you would expect, everything we had on it. Hospitals, fire stations, police stations, the infrastructure, housing, residents. It seemed like there was a really broad cross-section of things that were of interest to the group, that were important to them, and were consistent with the kinds of things that we had anticipated might come. One of the things that the group pointed out, though, and it wasn't on here, is, hey, it's all well and good to go ahead and talk to us about life safety or economics, but it was the group pretty well stressed that they're not separable. It's important to look at these things as integrated elements. What affects one affects the other. So that's a brief overview of what our group had in the Central Coast, in the Central Bay Area.
So, a big round of applause for the south part of the county for putting the most dots on the map. Very impressive group in terms of knowledge of the infrastructure that you find along the shoreline that could potentially be vulnerable. A lot of those types of assets were already mentioned, wastewater treatment plants, pump stations, etc. But there was also a keen interest in the more natural functions along the shoreline, such as the Bay Trail, the various wetlands, the sensitive habitats that you find particularly around the Safer Bay project. Important that was also brought up, say the interconnectivity between various regions. So don't just look within the county, but look across county borders. Also, for certain assets, such as, say, if you take the 101, if 100 feet of highways inundated, the asset cannot be used. So take that into account as well as you're looking at the regional impacts. Great information. So we will have a lot to take in. Relative to some of the criteria, I think there was general consensus that the categories covered the majority of considerations to look at. But what was missed that people would like to see on there is communication facilities, ports, and more emphasis on the recreational values within the county. So with that, thank you, and I think I'll now hand it over to Dave to close out the day.
Thanks, Peter. I want to thank everyone for making the time to share with us this morning to kick off this vulnerability assessment. I hope you have a good sense for the kind of projects we have underway and kind of the scope and breadth of what we want to do next. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be reaching out to you for your expertise, both from on the ground technical expertise and for policy guidance. There will be subsequent meetings of subgroups to check in on our progress and get more input. I'm also happy to announce that we have launched a website that we will inform you of by email, but it's called seachangesmc.com. seachangesmc.com. And this will be a place where we put all of our documents from this effort and from the other efforts that you heard about earlier today. We really want to drive people from across the county to this site. Brian and I will certainly utilize it as we continue our discussions about figuring out the best way to get 21 jurisdictions to work together. So has a nice look and feel, and I think it will be a great tool for everyone to utilize. So with that, I really thank you again. It was a great collection of people today, and a good start for an important project. We have a hand from Nadine. Okay. There was a question that may be on a few folks' mind, particularly from the coast side, in that why is it that the study is Half Moon Bay north and not all the way down to Pescadero? As folks know, we have a tremendously long coast if you go from Half Moon Bay way down to Pescadero. So we had two limitations there. One is that the mapping data is not complete for that stretch of the coast. And there are, I know that Supervisor Horsley's office and Deborah Hurst are looking at avenues to get that done. And then secondly, we have relatively limited resources to kind of take on what we've already bit off. So, but we will get to that stretch of the coast in time. Again, I thank you for coming, and we'll be back in touch. And check out the website again, seachangesmc.com. Thank you.